There we go. We're live. Week 10, guys. We're here. 9 games down. Um, I
Jeez.
was I was riding off super excitement. I'm sure Corstian was too, and then both of our teams got blown out last week. So yeah, it's rough out here, guys. It's rough out here. But welcome back. I'm your host, Josh. On my left, on your left, it's Corstian Wilson, the one and only, truly the GOAT.
That's me.
Um, yeah. So here to talk about some 5 games. But slight caveat: impressive win by the Lions. Like what Jared Goff is doing from a completion percentage is absolutely unreal. I get it. I get it. Jaden Daniels is doing Jaden Daniel things, but like to win on the road and all this talk, like whenever you get into like away from home games and stuff like that, it's just I never understood all that stuff
hmm
because like this is not Jared Goff's first rodeo. He's been the Lambeau before. He's been the Chicago before.
hmm
Like he's used to playing outdoors. Like he, he he's played in some of the coldest games like that the Rams and the Bears have had. Like
hmm
when he was on the Rams and the Bears were like 12-4. Like he's seen it. So like I never understood that. Impressive win by them. But we'll start off talking about the Dolphins and the Bills.
hmm
Completely, the Dolphins look completely different under Tua. They look a
hmm
lot better. He is as underrated as it go. But it
hmm
almost didn't matter. The Bills, like they are pretty much unstoppable. How about it? Walking off of a tied game with a 61-yard field goal by Tyler Bass. That was
hmm
incredible. So, yeah, this is a very exciting game. Um, Korsam, what were your thoughts? Like just seeing this game recap and like seeing what had happened.
hmm Yeah. Despite, the Dolphins losing, I mean, this caliber of play is kind of what we expected from Miami all season. And it really goes to show how pivotal Tua Tagovailoa is for this team. Because, I mean, you think about the weeks he was out, like, everything wasn't good for this offense. Like, the rush attack was weak. Obviously, the passing attack was weak. And then Tua comes back, and all of a sudden, A Chain is balling out like none other. The receivers are actually like getting theirs. And so it really is. As long as the Dolphins are a healthy team, like they will be competitive in pretty much every game they play. Um, but yeah, the Bills are really good too. Um, I think their receiving room is really stepping into their own, even without like Amari Cooper this last week. Like we're seeing, I think, strides made by this Bills offense. And Josh Allen looks incredibly uncomfortable, or not uncomfortable, incredibly comfortable, uh, just balling out this pretty much the entirety of the season. Um, especially just considering how they started out last year, and now you're looking at them now at 7-2. Like they've really found their groove.
And Khalil Shakir, man, like
Mm-hmm.
a favorite of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
This is the second straight year he's led the league in like catch percentage by target, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a crazy high number. I think it was like in the 90s. Like it's insane what the guy is doing, like from a standpoint. Like again, I'm not saying Shakir is like a number one option there. Like, but he's a really good number two. And um all the stuff they're doing. Like that last possession, like for the Dolphins, like
Mm-hmm.
that was like there's a lot of penalties committed by the Bills on that play. So it was like that's hard to see. You don't want to see
Mm-hmm.
that. And then you have Tyler Bass missing an extra point in the
Mm-hmm.
third quarter. You don't want to see that. Um, but like, I think the trust that they have in their players to get it done is like insane. Like especially in their rookies, like like Ray Davis taking a 63-yard pass, scoring in the end. Like that's like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that on my bucket list. Like he was a
Yeah.
thumper. Like he's just different cat. So yeah, tough loss for Miami. It's who do you see more likely to turn it around this season, the Jets or the Dolphins? Because they both have the same record right now.
Mm-hmm. I feel slightly more optimistic about the Dolphins, um, strictly just because this is the team we saw last year. Um, it's like, I mean, and like I feel comfortable saying like I know what to expect out of the Dolphins. I don't have the schedule rest of the season for them both pulled up. The Jets may have an easier schedule, and if that's the case, maybe I give them the slight edge. But as a team, just strictly going off like a head-to-head matchup, I think I'd take the Dolphins between them and the Jets.
Yeah. And I mean, one thing I did notice a lot more is like Jonnu Smith has become the focal point.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just because of like Tua not being there, but they really made it a point. Like he was a high priority signing for them. Like in
Mm-hmm.
the first half, he was getting more targeted than Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
like Tyreek started putting up numbers until like the third quarter. Like he only had like one catch for 9 yards, and then Jalen Waddle didn't really get involved until like the last drive. So like
Mm-hmm.
they're really funneling it through their backs and their tight ends right now, and I think because of that, it's gonna open up their entire offense. So I'm in
Mm-hmm.
agreement with you. Give me the Dolphins. Um, and it's plus the Jets don't have the defense that they had last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody was going in and saying like, oh, the defense is going to be exactly the same way. No, like this is why you can't count your chickens before they hatch and just like
Mm-hmm.
assume things will be the same. Like
Mm-hmm.
you gotta prove it. So
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with you there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and going on to that Jets defense point as well. I mean, Robert Saleh, despite his issues, I think is other aspects of him being a head coach. He was a good defensive coordinator. Like I think you can put a lot of the defense's success in the past to Saleh's coaching ability on that side of the team. And so seeing a little bit of a step down, like a downgrade of just overall caliber of this defense is kind of expected in a way. But if this, is like turning the leaf towards a more positive team in the future with like like a slightly worse defense, but a greatly improved offense, I think that payoff's worth it for a team like this.
Yeah, totally in agreement with you there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Bear Bears are down. Bear down indeed. Like I don't know what's going on with them.
Mm-hmm.
They followed up last game's Hail Mary debacle against the Commanders with a 53-yard run to like Amari DiMercato. That just upset me to my core. But I don't think that's the sole reason they're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
I I look at their offense. I look at DJ Moore giving up on plays. Keenan Allen just dropping very catchable balls. Caleb Williams making really bad decisions and being inaccurate, um, and not taking the checkdowns. And I look at a fan base just blaming the coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
And I also look at the run defense. And I'm like, there's no sole person to blame here. Like, I I can't say fire Eberflus and that's gonna solve all your problems for the team. Like the reason why I said I'd be happy if the Bears had 8 wins next year at the start of the season is because I knew they were gonna be growing pains. And I
Mm-hmm.
think we're seeing these growing pains show itself at a weird time in the season. Usually you see this at the beginning of the season, but because the Bears have started off so well and Caleb looked to be in the rhythm, like it seemed like they had passed that wall and they were ready to like make a name in the playoffs and somewhat. But like look at their schedule and it's like no, it was their schedule. Like at the first 6 games, like they had favorable games and they'll have a favorable game this week, so they might be able to turn it around. But
Mm-hmm.
I think they're at the point where like defenses have figured out what they're trying to do offensively, and the Bears weren't ready with a counterattack. And that's why you've seen the offensive numbers that they are now. Like Cole Kmet barely getting involved in the game like 2 games in a row. That's not ideal. DJ Moore getting out targeted by Keenan Allen and Roma Dunze. Like that's not ideal. Like you'd love to see Roma Dunze putting up the numbers he does too. But it's kind of like not at the expense of the other weapons not getting involved. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
I look at the tackles. Like that's not good enough. Like I look at we knew the offensive line was a problem going into the season, and now it's showing itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I also look at some coaching staff decisions, like against the Commanders. Why are we going to a backup center on the goal line for a
Mm-hmm.
run in the end zone? Why are we calling a pass pressure when the Cardinals have like so many timeouts and they can just march down the field?
Mm-hmm.
Like and they can call any play in the book they want. Why are we not sending an extra rusher at the end of the Hail Mary? Like it's just like situational ball
Hmm.
combined with the players like not executing or getting everybody involved.
Hmm.
And like I'm disappointed, but
Hmm.
I'm also wanting to see, is this a team capable of fixing itself? Because
Yeah.
it's so early in the season where I can't just be like fire the coach. The Bears are
Hmm.
never going to fire a coach midseason. But
Hmm.
even if they did, I don't think it would solve their problems. I think it would actually hinder Caleb's development.
Hmm.
I want to see from this team, can they grow from these past 2 games? Because this is the first one they really lost by a lot, and usually
Hmm.
they've been in one-score games even when they do lose. And usually they don't allow more than 21 points, at least in the past 14 games. Like they've been really, really solid defensively. So
Hmm.
I want to see if they fix stuff systematically in the next week. What does that look like? And is that sustainable? Can they proactively have counterattacks? Because right now they don't, and it cost them two losses.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, my take on like honestly all the teams with the rookie quarterback is I think every team was under the impression that this would ultimately be a rebuilding season. It just so happens Jaden Daniels is the CJ Stroud, I guess, of this year, where um, the Commanders are just in fact balling out like they are. But I think at the start of the season, fans were just excited to see how their new quarterback plays, and I think the struggles both with last week and this week with Caleb Williams, like, yeah, I feel like you can't be too mad about. Like, obviously, you want him to play better, but also he's a rookie in his first season.
It's a
There's
lot of the little things that he's messing up, which is you have to understand that he's a rookie at that point.
yeah, and so like just like a general message that I think to all fans of the rookie quarterback teams or whatever is like you all expected this to be a rebuilding season more or less, and it's like every win you get is just like an added bonus to I guess the momentum you get going into next season. Because I mean like the Broncos, they got killed by the Ravens, right? But I'm like Bo Nix has his struggles, but he also has a lot of cool plays. And like like I see these positives, and I'm like this will, and like let's say the Broncos go 9-8, just missed the wild card. I think I'd be overall pretty happy with that kind of season, especially with like most people saying, "Oh, the Broncos are the worst team in the league. They'll probably get 4 wins by the end of the season." And so if the Broncos finish out strong like that, I'm just going to be more positive going into next season because the Broncos have another first round pick that they could potentially land a superstar with. The rookies that they have will start to develop. Their guys and exiting the rookie contracts are starting to look good, and so it's like a lot of this positive. And I think it's the same way with the Bears, where like sure you did surround Caleb Williams with a lot of talent, and so I think there's maybe a higher expectation of um, maybe a playoff season for the Bears here, but like again, like your new star receivers like Rome Odunze, who he is a rookie at the end of the day. Caleb Williams, is a rookie. Everyone kind of knew the struggles DeAndre Swift had. Keenan Allen, he did have a career season last year, but he is, a 30-plus-year-old wide receiver, and so there's always the question marks around there. Like DJ Moore and I guess Cole Kmet were really the only official staples I feel like the Bears had going into the season, and everything else that goes well is just an added positive to a rebuilding season.
Yeah. And I agree. And I think there's certain things that they can they can scheme up better where it's like the first 15 plays of the game. Like I think I was watching Tim Jenkins talk about
Mm-hmm.
this, like on the local radio station for the Bears. Like the first 15 plays of the game, you want to see how the defense reacts in their base coverage. Like, what do they gravitate to on like certain plays that you run? And then like after that first 15 plays, then you adopt an offensive strategy as the game goes throughout. But it seemed like there was just like a bunch of randomness, like you're just calling plays from Madden and you're not really taking the knowledge you gained from a play result. And so an example of this is like if you run a jet sweep, okay, you're gonna have to have like the slot cornerbacks on either side communicate or linebackers communicate when the player moves from one side to the other. Like who's going to take on which gap, which assignments, and whatnot. From an offensive perspective, you run that just to see how they're going to react. How do they bite? Where do they get influenced defensively to like cover? Like this is the high priority coverage. And you take that knowledge from that jet sweep and you say, oh, what happens if we fake the jet sweep and run it inside? Or what happens if we take the jet sweep and play action it? If the defense reacts heavily towards the jet sweep, if they don't, keep doing that. Keep running the jet sweep every single time
Yeah.
because the defense is not adjusting. And that's exactly what the Cardinals did with James Conner. It seemed like it was just like a grind to the meat bone kind of. They saw the run was working in the Bears and they kept going to that. But why I brought up that jet sweep example is if you're Shane Waldron, you need to call unique plays that make sense based on how the defense reacts. Like I'm not seeing that as much. Like I see all the cool formations and whatnot, but you need to see how the defense like attacks that formation. Like what formation do they go in if you split out like DeAndre Swift out wide? And are they consistently in that the coverage like majority of the game? Okay. Call a route beater for that coverage or a run concept that will beat that coverage because you have less guys in the box. Those are the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Either do that, or if you notice, every time you line up Swift wide, he's matched up against a linebacker and they cannot guard him. And they're having issues guarding that. Keep running concepts in that alignment and formation that give Swift advantage positions. I'm not saying call the same play over and over again, but like get to a play where you have mismatches in that formation because it's proving worthwhile and just keep doing that. And you haven't seen that from Waldron. You see a bunch of these cool plays and formations, but they don't really tell a story yet. So maybe that might change next week. Maybe he learned his lesson there or like the following games. But um, that's just something I noticed on what Tim Jenkins had mentioned and on like what the Cardinals have done just watching my own eyes on their offensive end. Like their first touchdown was a jet sweep to one of their best players on the team, to Trey McBride. Like, and that was really good. And to Tyreek Stevens' credit, Tyreek Stevens' credit, he played well that entire game. He played really, really well. He got the message. A lot of people said like, "Oh, like, are you disciplining Stevenson too much? It's just one bad play. Like, why would you bench him for like one bad play?" And then some people were like, "Oh, you got to bench him, cut him from the team." And it's like, no. Like these players make mistakes, but you still got to put them out there and help them learn and grow from their mistakes. So I think it's that part I really liked for the Bears. They dealt with it honestly and forthright, but the offensive stuff they still got to fix a lot. It's just the offense needs to tell a story that makes sense and like kind of like keeps the defense like thinking like what are they gonna do next instead of just being like, oh, we have one play, let's just go to an entirely different play the next play because I want to run that play. You know?
Yeah.
Kind of went on a tangent there, but hope that made sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah, with Seattle, I thought they looked worse than the Bears last week, and that's despite them looking really, really good. Because every time I tuned this game on, like Demarcus Robinson had an amazing, amazing game. First off,
Yeah.
but it's when Geno Smith gets in tight games, especially against the Rams. I don't know what goes up with him. Like he had a really nice passing day, but 3 interceptions and the types of interceptions he threw was just baffling. Like he threw
Yeah.
a pick six in the red zone, then they fumbled it one time, and then like they went for it on fourth down, and just every single time they hit the red zone, they just made some stupid mistake and couldn't overcome it.
Yeah. I mean, I still feel like they have ample opportunity to turn it around. I feel like the rest of the season will still probably be a grind for the Seahawks, but Also, they were missing DK Metcalf. I know, like, his presence. I mean, interceptions likely still happen even if Metcalf's still there, but that's like one point I guess you do have to take account of. Like, I think despite obviously losing and then the interceptions, it was nice to see the showing from JSN. Like,
Had a phenomenal game.
you know, because like this is everybody was expecting this version of him to be, you know, in the NFL. It just so happens that, you know, he's stuck behind Metcalf and Lockett at the receiver position. So when the other two are healthy, typically Jackson Smith is like third fiddle, which is obviously not not a good opportunity to ball out a lot. And so I'd say I'd take that as a positive at the bare minimum for this team. Um, but yeah, like the interception cleanup really needs to happen. And it's but overall, I mean, like, I guess like the one thing is like Geno Smith isn't afraid to sling it. I guess is like the positive because I know like some some quarterbacks with like interceptions they kind of get more timid and are a little bit more antsy about throwing the ball. But I mean, end of the game, you look at the stats and he still ended up having 363 pass yards, 3 touchdowns, and the loss ended up being in overtime. So like, you know, had the script been switched and the Seahawks managed to score an opening drive touchdown, like how much of this conversation do you think we'd be having, you know? Like
I
obviously
mean, I
the
think the
the three
reason we're
picks.
talking about it is where the interceptions happen, though, because
Mhm.
like
Well,
two of them
yeah.
in the fourth quarter in the red zone, and
Mhm.
despite that, in overtime, instead of taking a field goal and putting the pressure on the Rams, like and making you feel good about yourself as an offensive team, they felt pressure to go for it to score the touchdown there.
Mhm.
It's not like the Rams or the Chiefs where like if we give the ball back to them, they're definitely scoring a touchdown. Like Mike McDonald had done a really, really good job up to that point on limiting the Rams like to
Mhm.
6 points offensively. Or no, I think it's 13 points. They scored 7 on
Mhm.
a touchdown return. And it was literally the offense that was keeping them in like keeping the Rams in
Mhm.
this game. The Seahawks offense. And they had the ball in the red zone in overtime.
Mhm.
And on fourth down, they call a left tackle run to Kenneth Walker after they got stuffed on a 3rd-and-1 play on a similar concept to Kenneth Walker. Like they
Mhm.
ran to the left both times, 2 straight times when they had 1
Mhm.
yard to go. Like it's I think that part about the offensive play calling, that goes for Seattle too. Like
Mhm.
if you notice the run is stuffed, why would you try it again? Like they clearly have something on that concept at that moment after you had run it like 2 times before that. Um, like I don't think you go on a 4-down series running it all 4 times. I think you
Mhm.
build a sequence where you have a pass, a play action, like get some positive yardage. And I think like 3rd and
Mhm.
4th down, that sequence was just. I get it. Kenneth Walker's like your best, one of your best players at the time, but like JSN
Mhm.
had it rolling. Like you could have easily had like a play action to JSN.
Mhm.
Or like something where you got him going because he had figured out how to attack the Rams defense at this
Mhm.
point in the game. And I think some of that decision making combined with what Geno Smith did as a decision maker, like really
Mhm.
hurt them in this game.
Mhm. Yeah. And like I always said in the start, though, I do give them the benefit of the doubt of being able to turn it around.
Yeah.
There's a lot of veterans on this team, um, which gives me like some sense of confidence that they have like the discipline to switch things around. Because I mean, like we also saw in the beginning of the season how scary the Seattle team could be, but also I think
Think about this,
we're
dude.
at
Look at the
that.
standings. They were sitting in first place like 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
and now they're in last place in the division.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, you look at their division too, and like
It's stacked.
because like, are you really knocking like, oh wow, they're last in the division, but also they're 4-5, almost at 500, you know, like.
Yeah.
But then also, I mean, you have to give like due credit to the Rams as well. Like they've got playmakers on both sides of the ball, and that's inevitably what ended up getting them to this stage. I mean, like Cooper Cup, even without Puka Nacua. Cooper Kupp puts up 11 catches for 104 receiving yards. Like, you got to be able to, like, and then you let Demarcus Robinson, of all people, catch the ball 6 times for 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like,
He's been balling though. He's been like whenever
he
teams have
has.
focused on Cooper Kupp, like he's done really well in his one-on-one matchups. I'm not saying
Yeah, I
he's a
mean, like,
primary receiver, but
yeah.
he's been really, really good in his role on the Rams.
Yeah. And so it's like, I feel like you also have to give a lot of credit to the Rams for, like, having the types of guys that can, like, cause turnovers and just, like, stop an offense just as much as how good the defense for Seattle was for pretty much the entire game.
And Jared Verse, he was like a monster at the end of that game. That guy was swatting balls and like creating havoc on the defensive end. And there was like one other guy on the Rams defensive line. Like their defensive line seemingly got better collectively after Aaron Donald retired. Like, and that's just really unfortunate. I would love to see if Jared Verse and Aaron Donald were on the same team together. That would have been fun to see.
Yeah, it would be.
Okay. Last week we had talked about Anthony Richardson and the benching and whatnot. And going into this game, they're like, "Oh, is it Flacco time?" I don't know. I think that was just the Browns season, man. I was really disappointed watching Flacco play. He speaking of a guy who should take checkdowns like when talking about Caleb Williams, this guy would not take the easy yardage that would have like that he had in key situations and put his team in bad spots. But also, like, I don't think switching from Richardson to Flacco is going to solve the problem here. I think this is a clear owner decision that was impulsively made, and I think as a result, the team is going to suffer for it because if you look at how a lot of the teammates found out about Anthony Richards benching, it wasn't from a team meeting. This was social media, and even some of the captains weren't in the know about like this was happening until like it was publicly announced. And I feel like you can't have that happen. So like I love what Flacco did with the Cleveland last year, but I think this is just an entirely different team where like it's hard to figure out. And that being said, like they had a great game plan against the Vikings. They played him like that defense of the Colts, something special, bro. Just something special. But I think yeah, when I look at their offense, it's another mess. It's like you got Flacco not playing the best. Then you got Michael Pittman. I don't know why he's out there, dude. Like he's got a back injury right now. He should not be playing. He doesn't look like himself. And then you got like Adonai Mitchell, who's making fantastic grabs but not getting the technical feet down, like to get 2 feet him out and stuff like that. And he makes phenomenal plays. But like he's a guy you need to take a chance. Their best player is your boy, Josh Downs. Like they need to go to him a lot more often. So like I think and Taylor too. Like I just think there's a lot of things wrong with the Colts offensive system right now, and I have no doubt that Steichen will fix it. But I look at the Colts coming out of this game, and I'm like, I don't think the problem is Richardson.
Yeah, there's 2 points I want to make on this. The first is like you also have to consider the Vikings arguably have a top 5 defense in the league right now. Like are we really knocking the Colts' offensive struggles against one of the best defenses in the league? I feel like it's almost unfair to be like, oh, this was Anthony Richardson was fine as is. But then my second point is I think we look towards Bryce Young, how he got benched, and then you look at him now, and like, obviously he isn't phenomenal by any means, but like, I think just having sat out, and like him being like a team player about it, has really helped the team rally around him. Plus, I think it's just given him some time to like settle in a little bit more. I mean, we see how like like this last week with the win. I mean, like he looked so happy. I think the team was super happy. He played good football. The interception, 100% not on Bryce Young. Like the ball literally got ripped out of the wide receiver's hand. kind of bogus. But like, and then you even look at the week prior against the Broncos, like he had his struggles for sure, but like that was
He
probably
got
one
a
of his
coach
best,
fired. He got a coach fired, bro. Like that's like he had the Saints in denial. Full credit to him.
right? Like so, like these last 2 weeks, I think we've seen a completely different Bryce Young than we've seen pretty much the entirety of his NFL career so far. And so, like, Anthony Richardson, I think just having an opportunity to be like fully healthy, but also being able to like prove to be a team player and then just like being able to like have a mental reset almost. If Joe Flacco just continues to stink for a couple of weeks, like, and then you reinsert Anthony Richardson, I think the team will be able to rally around that. You'll have time to settle in and like just be able to practice at full speed throughout the season without like the injury hampering him.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point with the Vikings defense. I think I might have been a little bit too overzealous when like talking about this game in particular. Um, but I look at how Darnold's playing now, and I'm just like, everybody's getting in on the action. Like it feels like Jefferson's less involved,
Mm-hmm.
but like he had 137 yards on 7 receptions
Yeah.
like last week. It feels like an offense where it's like there's so many players to take into account. Like Aaron Jones had a good game. Like
Mm-hmm.
don't the Packers miss him? And then you see other guys getting involved on the action. Like Josh Oliver had a touchdown, Jordan Addison had a touchdown, T.J. Hawkinson, welcome back. Jalen Naylor only catch was a touchdown. Like these guys are making plays and stepping up when they need to. And Darnold is like trusting his passes and his back foot, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like to your credit, as a whole team, the Vikings are here to stay. I don't think that Lions loss is any indication that they're not a playoff contender based on how they're playing now.
Yeah.
Um, but to your credit on that team, like with the Vikings, it seems like it comes from everywhere. Like Jonathan
Mm-hmm.
Gennard had a really really good game, but I don't think it was just on him. Like you look at like the amount of hits that like he had, Jahad Ward, like Andrew Van Ginkel, like Dallas Turner had a really, really good like pressure on Joe Flacco. Like, um, yeah, I hear you. I hear you on that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I just think from the Colts perspective, there's a lot they need to address that wasn't just related to the Vikings loss.
Mm-hmm.
Just from the outside looking in, it's just like, okay, we got to talk about Pittman. We got to talk about like what went into the Richardson signing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think this would have been the perfect litmus test for Anthony Richardson. Like, where like you have a guy that you can rely on your mobility to work around these pressures. Whereas with like Joe Flacco, he's just like a sitting duck.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the half the battle where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
how much do you want to play like Richardson, or do you just want to bench him so you can like mentally learn the game? Even
Mm-hmm.
though you know he probably is the best quarterback for this game. So now talking about this, I think there needs to be a wait and see approach to fully confirm this,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Yeah.
don't think the problem was all him. I
Mm-hmm.
do think he could benefit from sitting like Bryce Young did for a couple weeks because
Yeah.
that's how Drew Brees became who he is, like under Marty Schottenheimer on the
Mm-hmm.
Chargers. Like Schottenheimer like actively benched him, but told him, "Hey, this is for your development, so you see things in a different perspective." And
Mm-hmm.
what does he do like in his latter parts of the career, and then in the Saints' career, he turns it around. So
Uh-huh.
I still have hope for Anthony Richardson. I know there was a stat coming out that's like out of like 40 quarterbacks who've like got drafted in the first round and got benched, they rarely stuck with the same team, like and had like an all pro season or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. And Anthony Richardson would be the first or the second guy out of those quarterbacks in the last 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hear that stat, it's like, oh, that's not looking good for Richardson. But the
Mm-hmm.
fact that NFL teams want to trade for him just means like there's still a lot of untapped
Mm-hmm.
talent there. Um, we'll just
Mm-hmm.
have to see how this Colts situation plays out.
Yeah. And then just adding on to that, the Vikings defense. So this season, so far, they've recorded 27 sacks over 8 games, and they have 13 interceptions over 8 games.
Oh my gosh, man.
Like, this defense is nasty, dude.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, and then they also have 4 fumble recoveries and 3 touchdowns.
that will do it, man. That will do it. Like Byron Murphy had a great game.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bynum also had a great game. Like Metellus, I've always liked him. Like Harrison Phillips. No, sorry. Not him. Safety. Harrison Smith.
Yeah.
Harrison Smith had a nice fumble recovery as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they look completely different under Flores.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last game. I really thought the Chiefs would lose this one.
Mm-hmm.
Just watching it, and um, DeAndre Hopkins said, "Not on my watch." It
Yeah.
almost feels unfair. Like I just think about like, oh, what if the Buccaneers had Godwin and Evans, and how much they struggled throwing to the receivers, and like
Mm-hmm.
this almost made it like must watch like if you had like Godwin and Evans, but like what a game! Like Baker Mayfield like tying the game like in the closing seconds. Like you're thinking, are they gonna go for
Mm-hmm.
two or just kick it? And um, yeah, ice cold, man. Ice cold.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could see it on Baker's face too when they had the coin toss. Like once he knew the Chiefs had won, like he reacted in the way like dang it, because he knew like he's probably not gonna get the ball back.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah.
is an incredible game.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I feel like honestly every game that I witnessed of Baker Mayfield, like these past 2 seasons, have like further solidified him to be one of my favorite players in the league. Like, I don't know if like outside of Broncos players, like I don't, he might be my favorite player.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, you look at him in Oklahoma, just this brash guy, and then like going to the Cleveland with that stacked lineup and just disappointing and people hating him, and like the career journey he's been on is unbelievable. He's done like a 180. Like I think we've talked about this plenty of times where it's the start of like the season, but like he kept them in this, man. He
mm-hmm,
kept them in this. It was incredible.
mm-hmm. Yeah, because like everybody, like, we all expected a downgrade of like just overall play with the lack of receivers, but like he still had 200 pass yards and 2 passing touchdowns, 0 picks against the Chiefs. It's like he had an excellent game, but
And that's a good defense too. That's a really,
uh-huh.
really good defense.
Yeah. And so like I'm like I will say the rest of their season looks pretty easy outside of the 49ers. So like despite again not having their guys, I wouldn't be surprised to see them in like the playoffs and like as in the wild card spot. As you look, they got the 49ers next week, then a bye, then they go against the Giants, Panthers, Raiders, Chargers, Cowboys, and the Panthers.
I mean, they could win the division at that point. We like the Panthers getting better, but like, I mean,
Yeah.
are we really saying the Falcons are about to pull it? Like they look good, but
Mm-hmm.
like Drake London's hurt right now. Like you don't know what's gonna
Mm-hmm.
happen. Like they could have beat the Falcons this year, like
Mm-hmm.
in that crazy game where Cousins threw for 500 yards.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of just blew it. But like I wouldn't rule them out from winning the division either. Like I've said this after week 3. Like they look primed to repeat as division winners. That's how
Mm-hmm.
good they look. I do want to talk about Kate Hamlin though,
Yeah.
because I feel like he's been underutilized. Just seeing the numbers he's just putting up, it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like a top 8 tight end right now.
He's so
Like
good.
like he's a number one. He's a clear number one option on that team. The Chiefs didn't have any way to stop him, and like I, again, it's like if you had Goblins and Evans, like that would have been fun to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bucky Irvin too. I love watching him run. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's not the most refined runner, but he knows how to get like 6 or 7 yards somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see him be the starting running back on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, cause I like Rashad White, but I think he's a better weapon on the outside. He's gotten a lot better at running the football. You saw that in the first
Mm-hmm.
touchdown. But like, I just love the way Irving plays.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could tell he brings a different element to that team. So they
Mm-hmm.
still have some weapons there, but like Baker, Baker combined with these two guys like stepping up, like have really made the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a team like you don't want to rule out.
Yeah. And I feel like K. Dotton's just like the perfect example of the average like 25-year-old prime breakout age for tight ends as well.
Yeah.
Because like again, I feel like last season we really were spoiled, and even like the Kyle Pitts rookie season, we were spoiled by tremendous rookie tight end play. Even last season, Trey McBride in the second season, like again,
he's a rookie at that point. He didn't play much his first season.
Right? Like, and so like we've been like spoiled by this, but like on average, historically outside of these outliers, it does take like anywhere from like 3 to like 5 seasons for a lot of these tight ends to actually hit their stride. And so I mean, like he's in his third season now, and he's pretty much matched his career best, which was last season. His last year he was his best year, putting up 455 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. This year, at the halfway mark, pretty much, he's at 421 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns.
Wow.
And
it's incredible stuff, though.
Because then I feel like you can even go back and like look at like George Kittle and like Travis Kelce for like they had like a whatever first year, but then like George Kittle year 2 breakout. I'm gonna pull up Travis Kelce now.
Not bad for a 4th round pick, dude. Not bad.
Yeah, Travis Kelce didn't even play his rookie year. And then year 2 he puts up, I mean, a ridiculous 800 yards. So I mean, I guess he's balled out from the start. But like again, rookie year, Travis Kelce pretty much does nothing, and then he balls out, the following year.
Do you think he's washed? Do you think Kelce looks washed to you this season?
I don't know if like washed is the right word for it. I definitely think he's regressed a little bit, which isn't like really about like considering his age. Like, I think a lot of people expected this kind of like just regression in general to be like 3 years ago, but I think he struggles again to hit like the 1,000 receiving yard mark this season as well. But like him putting up 800 plus receiving yards, and maybe getting up to like 6 receiving touchdowns certainly like is in the realm of possibility for him. And like, sure, it's down compared to his like 1,400 receiving yard years, but like an 800 plus receiving yard season from your tight end regardless, I think is a positive. And so it's like, I'll call him washed when he struggles to put up like 400 receiving yards in a season. That's my definition of a washed tight end.
I don't think that's happening anytime soon. I look at him play. I think he's just getting like less. Again, he had an insane amount of catches in this game.
But I think it was his career high.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think he had like 13 or 14 catches. Yeah, that was. But like early in the season, he wasn't getting that many targets, like at all. Like, and it wasn't. I think it was just defenses like trying to scheme him out. But like now you see him get like he's always been like an intermediate and like route running kind of tight end. So he's not going to beat you for like a 40, 50 yard catch. Like but he's been like crazy athletic where he can outrun you for that many yardage. But like, I don't think he's doing that anytime soon. But I see the technical craft in this game, and I don't think that's going anywhere. Like same with DeAndre Hopkins. Like you saw the red zone possession where he got his touchdown, 1 or 2 touchdowns, and it's like the way he finds space and creates space. Like that's like an experienced route runner. I think that's still in Kelce's realm possibility. And if that deteriorates, then I'll say he's washed. But I agree, he's not washed yet.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, 45 minutes of having to deal with us. Thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate you. Our Instagram username is right there, amon.a.mission. Follow it right now. And our YouTube channel is Amon Mission, 3 words. Full length episodes right there. Follow it now, and we will see you next week.
Peace.